Hello, welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Nahla Abid Gribaa, who's a Vice President for Bureau Veritas, a business that obviously is well known for its role in certification, testing, etc. You're obviously going to be speaking at World Hydrogen MENA coming up next year in February 2023. So can you give us a little bit of introduction to Bureau Veritas, the business, and specifically maybe some of your thoughts on how hydrogen is developing across the region here in the MENA region?
Yeah, thank you, Nadim. Actually, it's really a pleasure to be joining you at the World Hydrogen MENA. And thanks a lot also for giving us the opportunity to a bit introduce what we do in this field. So Bureau Veritas is almost 200 years old company. Mm-hmm. We are a world leader in testing, inspection, and certification. Basically, when we speak about testing, we speak about testing of petroleum product, testing about hydrogen, like really to kind of certify the quality of the product. We speak about certification, so all the certification related. If we speak hydrogen, about the ATEX, the marking, to make sure that you have some equipment which are really well prepared to be in managing the risk of the explosion of the hydrogen. And then we speak about inspection, so really having people in the ground. As example, making sure that you have the right quality assurance, quality control in your project. Speaking about hydrogen particularly, our company is very active. So we've been actually since quite now, we've been active since maybe few years as part of the World Hydrogen Council. Mm-hmm. We're part of various other groups. So here particularly we're part of the DII and the MENA Hydrogen Alliance. We joined them this year actually. Okay. Yeah. And we basically operate in various areas of the hydrogen value chain. So we've been dealing with hydrogen since very long time. Every refinery, most of petrochemical plant would have a hydrogen unit. So we've been working since long in hydrogen units. But I think what is new today that we are seeing more the low carbon hydrogen being more and more in the focus in the area. And we're seeing basically more electrolyzers based, I would say, hydrogen produced through electrolyzers from renewable resources, which is being really now kind of in the spot of the market, in the spotlight of the market. So few areas are becoming more and more actually asked by various people to us, saying, okay, how do you manage risk and safety? We will not just use hydrogen in a refinery now or in a very old industrial process, but we might use it now for cooking. Mm-hmm. So is there any aspect we should be careful about? We speak also a lot now about low carbon hydrogen. How can I make sure it is green or blue or low carbon simply? Yeah. Can you certify that? So those are part of the areas which we are very active working in.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a huge amount of opportunities for you, especially obviously moving hydrogen. Hydrogen is quite difficult to transport. Yes. And I guess also there are a lot more risks involved as well with hydrogen. So are there any specific areas that you think that need to be tackled with better regulation?
I believe that is the big part which is making actually hydrogen moving a bit, I would say, slow relatively. What we see is there is no proper safety and risk regulation already in place. There are various actually standards, there are even some ISO standards working in this area, but many are still under revision. Right. So as I said, electrolyzers technology, it's not new, but the size of electrolyzer before was much smaller than what we are seeing today. So how could we make sure that I'm placing this electrolyzer technology? And I will say as example in our region with the dusty environment, am I actually tackling all the risk related actually to the environmental part of our region? How would it be as I'm placing it near a solar plant, near a wind plant, which wasn't really the case a few years earlier. Yeah. So this is an area which I believe really we do miss proper safety and risk regulation. And I feel many countries are starting working on them. It's a big focus as well from the Hydrogen Council as example, which we are part of. And that's really an area which I feel could be a lot developed. Yeah. And then we have the other side when we speak about the export of hydrogen. Why does the project, why the project are not moving fast? We do have this offtake side, which would be questioning if the hydrogen that you're having is really low carbon or not. And here comes another side, which is the certification of hydrogen, or labeling the hydrogen as green, as blue, as a renewable hydrogen. And the issue here as well is we do not have a fixed standards globally. So you would have the RED II regulation in Europe, but even RED II regulation is not yet as clear to make it easy for exporter to say, okay, if I'm exporting to Germany or to France, to anywhere else in Europe, this is what I should follow. Yeah. So if I'm rather exporting in parallel to Japan, what would be the regulation to follow? So this is also an area which I do believe if we want this market to move fast, we do need to see more consensus at the global level, because we like it or not, hydrogen is global, particularly in our region, MENA, where we do mainly produce it for export.
Yeah. And behind the scenes, are there, I mean, I assume there's been a similar sort of standard setting process for other industries and for other new products that come to market. Clean hydrogen is a new product, and there's a process to establish these certification standards. And behind the scenes, is there things moving? Will we be seeing regulations coming out that help us develop a true sort of global commoditized market, according to you, or does there need to be more emphasis on that standard setting process?
I do believe there is a lot being done.
Yeah.
But I think to really have something at global level ready is not yet there.
No.
So we know that, as example, there are various areas like the ISO which are working on some standards. Today, as example, if you see most of the certification or definition of green, blue, low carbon, renewable, or whatever, many of them are based on top of saying that it's a source of renewable and other, but many of them are based on the carbon footprint. Right. Today, even the methodology for calculating carbon footprint might be different from one country to another.
Yeah.
So there are a few areas being developed, and part of them is building those, or like kind of having one ISO standard to simplify those areas. This is just an area which I would say our company is a bit involved in, so we know that it's being developed. Then you spoke about also like the transport side.
Yeah.
So there is also, we know that also in the IMO, or like International Marine Organization, there is also a lot of work now being discussed. How could I, as example, shift from now the fuel which is used for the vessels to rather use more environmental friendly, so speaking about ammonia and others. So this is also other area which is being discussed. And if I do it, how can I classify those ships? Changing it from the typical one to more ammonia or more green-based one.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. Well, there's obviously a lot of work that needs to be done, and we look forward to your contribution at World Hydrogen MENA and learning more about the certification and I guess the real sort of important work that happens in providing real sort of glue for the industry and helping accelerate the growth of these export markets. So we look forward to catching up and learning more as you progress. So thanks a lot for having a chat with us today.
Thank you, Nadim. Really a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers. Take care.
Cheers. Take
Bye.
care.